What's going on, guys? Today I've got a different type of video. We are going to be doing my top 10 favorite non-metal records. That's right, these records are not metal, but they're records that I love anyway, and I have no shame in admitting it. So let's get into it, guys. So, starting off with the self-titled album from the classic rock band Boston. 70s rock band. And you'll notice that I have quite a bit of 70s rock on here. But this band is just cool to me. They're just pure classic rock at its best in the 70s. And like I said, the 70s to me was just the best era of rock music for just plain hard rock. And Boston is a prime example of that. The song More Than a Feeling, it never gets old, but the song Peace of Mind is actually my favorite Boston song and my favorite song on the album. And the rest of this album just is just off the hook. Like I said, I'm not a music reviewer, but I don't know all the fundamentals of it and whatnot. But this album to me is just a pure classic hard rock album, and I love it. Alright, now moving on to Led Zeppelin's first debut album. Guys, I love Led Zeppelin, and their first album may not objectively be their best. That could either go to Led Zeppelin 3 or 4, but their debut album has just always been my favorite. The song Good Times, Bad Times is just absolutely off the hook. Or it was until Godsmack ruined it. Nothing against Godsmack, I don't listen to them. But I did hear their cover, and I wasn't impressed by it. Led Zeppelin is just the way to go, and a lot of bands were really influenced by Led Zeppelin. I don't care. I know people that say Led Zeppelin are a bunch of thieves and they steal music. Every piece of music is stolen because there's just a lot you can do to extend another piece of music. And personally, it doesn't really bother me if that's what you think about Led Zeppelin. They're always going to be an iconic band to me, and this album is just amazing with amazing rock guitar riffs, and the fact that this album came out in 1969 just makes it ahead of its time to me. Alright, now we're on to Dookie by Green Day. This album is just a great album from start to finish, and I just love listening to it. Best song on here, my favorite song on here for me, is actually Having a Blast. Just fantastic 90s punk rock. I'm also a fan of everything Green Day until that just god awful trilogy of albums. American Idiot and 21st Century Breakdown being probably my second and third favorite from the band. But Dookie to me was just a classic since the day it released. It just revolutionized punk music in the 90s. As punk kind of died in the 80s, punk was more of a 70s thing. But punk kind of died in the 80s, and regardless of what you think of Green Day, if you're one of those hardcore 70s punk kind of guys, you probably don't like Green Day. But to me, I think they kind of got punk up and going again. Even though I'm not really a punk guy, but Green Day was always my exception. I mean, I did like some 70s punk, like the Ramones and the Clash and uh, the Sex Pistols. I like some of that stuff, but overall, I'm just not a big punk guy. But like I said, Green Day's Dookie is a classic to me. Alright, get ready to laugh at me, but we have Life Starts Now by 3 Days Grace. Their first three albums got me through, yeah, just listen. Their first three albums got me through the bullshit that came with middle school, where kids were just absolutely unbearable and just plain rude little bastards, and coming home to the self-titled and 1X was very cathartic to me. And then I remember going into an FYE, or a Sam Goody, which was Sam Goody was owned by FYE, and I saw Life Starts Now, and I picked it. I saw it there on the shelf, and I picked it up, and I got home and listened to it. My mind, my like 11-year-old mind, was just blown at how great this was at the time. Even when Transit of Venus came out, the album after that preceded it, I was still under the impression that Life Starts Now was still 3 Days Grace's best release. And it was the second album that I bought with my own money, and I still own the album, the same copy today. And I always remember telling me I'd always listen to self-titled 1X and Life Starts Now, and then I'd always stand at the top of the stairs and I'd shout, "Hey mom, hey dad, Life Starts Now is my favorite album by 3 Days Grace. It's one of the best rock albums ever written." And you know, I don't have any shame in admitting that I like the album, and I actually still like 3 Days Grace. I don't like their new stuff, but I do still like their first four albums. I'm not gonna lie, they got me through some tough times, and when I start feeling melancholic and all that, I go back and revisit them. And I know I listen to fucking black metal now, but there's nothing wrong with that. Alright, going back to the 1970s, we got Second Helping by Lynyrd Skynyrd. For those of you that don't know, as much of a big metalhead as I am, I'm also a big southern rock fan too. And Lynyrd Skynyrd was what I was listening to before I got into metal. It started out, my journey kind of started out with, like, The Who, Beatles, Stones, Led Zeppelin, and then Lynyrd Skynyrd. I listened to a lot of Lynyrd Skynyrd, and like I said, that was before I got into metal. And the guitar work with this band, and I'm specifically talking about the original lineup. I hate the stuff now. I can't stand it. But the original lineup, the guitar work, and just everything about this band was fantastic. Most southern rock does have really great blues influenced guitar work, but Lynyrd Skynyrd was just the most notable for me, and I believe that their second album, Second Helping, is the best release from the band. Alright, here's where we might get a little controversial with ACDC fans, but um, I'm going with ACDC Fly on the Wall. And I know pretty much all of ACDC stuff sounds the same, which I really fail to see why this would be controversial. But believe it or not, I've stated this before and got shit for it. But Fly on the Wall has just always been my favorite album by ACDC ever since I got into the band. Yeah, you had greats like For Those About to Rock, Back in Black, Highway to Hell, High Voltage, Who Made Who. You had uh, Ball Breaker, Razor's Edge, just Flip Off or Flip On the Switch. Just ACDC is a great band. But Fly on the Wall, even though it's not their most popular album, it's just always been my favorite album. And my favorite ACDC song of all time is First Blood. So I have no issue in stating that ACDC's Fly on the Wall is my favorite ACDC album, one of my favorite non-metal albums of all time. So yeah, I have no shame in admitting it. And probably my favorite non-metal album of all time is Weezer's Blue Album. Judge me. I don't care. Judge me. But this band is one of my weaknesses, as I'm a fan of pretty much everything up to the Red Album. And yes, you'd think, oh, this guy listens to black metal like Revenge and Conqueror and metal like Dragged into Sunlight and stuff like that. But, oh my god, he likes Weezer? This guy who likes death, black, thrash, new wave of British heavy metal, speed metal, power metal. He likes all this stuff and he likes Weezer? Is that even fucking possible? Yeah, it's possible. Weezer is just a band I like. And, you know, like I said, most of their stuff past Red Album to me is bad. Minus Everything Will Be Alright in the End. That was an okay album. But everything other than that album to me is awful past Red Album. But Weezer's Blue Album was just an amazing piece of work with the song Buddy Holly. And my favorite song by Weezer is actually the Sweater Song, which is about, to me, I took it as existential dread and boredom and whatnot. And the song "Say It Ain't So," with the brilliantly written lyrics about Rivers Cuomo's his father abandoning him and then trying to push religion onto him. It's a great song, and just every song on this album is great. Blue Album is just a fantastic and timeless classic to me, and that will never change. Green Album and Pinkerton almost rival Blue Album, but Blue Album is just better to me than those albums, and they're great too. But alright guys, there you have it, my 7 favorite non-metal albums. What did you guys think? Do you guys like it? Do you want to get mad at me? Let me know in the comments. And thank you guys for watching. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and I'm out. Peace.